Solomon Jojo Kobna in that very interaction with the Pan-African Orchestra and resuscitation of orchestra in our country is the foremost or the most important thing we need to do. Traditional music is critical to upliftment of our souls. Okay. Now let me introduce my guests for AM Talk this morning. I have William Japon Kwetu. He's a member of parliament for Akimodan and a member of the MPP as well. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
And on the front page of the Business and Financial Times, we know that the finance minister is also expected to present before Parliament the budget. When is that?
Well, we've heard it's going to be read on the 19th. Some are saying 21st. I guess we'll get to know it today.
One of those days. You're going to the House today? Are you sitting?
Yes, we are sitting.
All right.
Friday, yes.
On the front page of the BNFT says Bank of Ghana takes shots at inflation, etc. And we know that just 3 days ago, the Bank of Ghana came out with a lot more specific detail about the current state of the economy and their own, not concerns, but where they have put the interest rates and the base rate, etc. for the banks. And it's been something that we've had or generated a lot more criticism from the critics as well as the economic analysts. What do you make of the current rate as announced by the Bank of Ghana?
Let me first of all say a very good morning to your listeners and particularly to the members of Akimodan. Let me say, I don't understand why people who are in various positions will want to set for someone to put pressure on them before they really do what they are supposed to do. This figure that I've been churned out by Bank of Ghana was to me due to pressure mounted by AGI, that's Association of Ghanaian Industries, and other institutions. That was last week. I mean, the whole of last week we see in the papers give us or tell us the true state of the economy before they came out with these figures. Doesn't mean they were more or less deceiving us all the time. Now inflation, we are told, is about 16.9, isn't it? 16 point something.
And our target was supposed to have been 15% for the period.
Yes, but it went up. And so if people are not put pressure on him, on Bank of Ghana, of course, probably the governor would have come out with these true figures. And you see, we should always stay in the truth and nothing else. That will help us plan and plan well. If we deceive us all, we will never move forward. So I'm glad that these figures are now coming out. Now, people know that the inflation is this. And so when they are doing anything regarding their businesses, they are able to plan well. What else? They also quoted the base rate or so to be about 16, it's increasing from 19 to 21%. And it goes ahead to say that he's not expecting the commercial banks to increase their interest rate because it is still going to keep lending to them at 24%. Well, I'm not a strictly finance person, but I don't think that this really can be the truth. Because if you are increasing base rate yourself, and you say you are still going to lend to them at 24%, and therefore you don't expect them to increase, the interest rate, I don't think they can do that. Of course, they will run at a loss. And definitely, once it's going to 21%, these commercial banks borrow their cost and profit, everything, when they put it on it. It's about almost between 8 to 10%. So I don't expect a bank to go borrowing below 30, 31% now. And so if that is what we are going to be doing, I mean, the business world or the business entity are going to be buying cash at, the repercussions are going to be very, very serious on the ordinary Ghanaian. In the sense that if I go borrow money at 30%, of course, I'll also work with it and make sure that my profit margin should not be anything less than 40%. And who's going to pay for that? The consumer. So the implications and the effects of this adjustment or these new figures that we are seeing here is going to be that we are going to experience more hard times or very, very stringent financial situations in Ghana. Everything is going to increase. Despite the fact that, of course, we think that fuel has been reduced only marginally by about 2%, which to me is an insult. Other areas are going to suffer because manufacturing is going to suffer seriously because of this increase in the base rate. Besides that, I think that inflation going at 16.9% and the treasury bill rate, if you read further, you see that the treasury bill, everything is gone up. It means not every industry or every businessman can go to borrow because government will seriously be competing with that market.
In the domestic market.
The domestic market. And that means that government will have the upper hand. And every organization or every financial dealer will want to deal with the government, because for government can never run away. Borrowing to government is not risky. No matter how long it takes, government is going to be able to pay. And so they rather want to borrow to the government rather than to borrow to the private sector. And that is also going to affect employment and everything. So the implications to me are very serious. It is going to affect almost every facet of life that we have. Because apart from fuel, this financial, the financial implications of these figures that we are realizing are going to be very, very serious.
We'll come to talk about debt to GDP ratio, etc. If you look at what the statistics are, especially also coming from the Bank of Ghana, about how growth will be experienced within the sub-region, we're told that it's going to be estimated to expand around 5.1% in the sub-Saharan sub-region.
What is going to expand?
Growth in the sub-region. Yeah. What didn't we get? What didn't we get right within the period? Because then that will be pulls apart as far as the growth figures are concerned for country, and then the sub-regional figures.
But you see, let me say that when you consider growth in general, we are tilting towards services too much.
You mean as a country?
As a country. Now you see that the service industry has overtaken almost every other sector of the economy, and that is cheap. That is easy to do your business. If it is the communication sector, the thing is that you just bring it, you bring your network, people buy into it, and then you make your money. Cost investment in those areas are very, very minimal compared to manufacturing and other areas.
Other industrial sectors.
Yes, industrial sectors, particularly agriculture. This country is not putting any premium on agriculture.
You're a member of parliament.
Yeah, I'm a member of parliament and a member of the agri committee. And so I know the amount of investment that the government is putting in agriculture over the years, and I've harped on this several times. Even though my first time in parliament, I've seen that it is not the best, because there was a Maputo declaration that indicated that if the sub-Saharan Africa wanted to experience this growth that we are talking about, then every country should make the conscious effort to at least invest about 10% of its total budget in agriculture. Where are we in Ghana now? The MPP government tried to do that, because this declaration was in 2004, so 2005. And so the MPP government tried to do that. So by 2008, the MPP government was almost investing about 7-8%. Now it's dipped down to about 3%, 3.5%. Last year was about 3.5%. If you calculate the total budget of agriculture, you find the percentage.
So we're not getting the priorities right.
We are not getting the priorities right. Agriculture should be looked at seriously. Why should the service and manufacturing industry now even outrun agriculture? How many people are in the manufacturing sector? How many are in the service sector? And how many are into agriculture? You can, in Ghana, for instance, people give all kinds of figures, but the average is between about 55 to 65% of all Ghanaians being agric. And so if this is where the majority are, then why don't you invest more there? Understand the government by putting in more. I mean, education takes about almost 30 to 32% of our total budget, okay, and other sectors. So I would have thought that the next would have been maybe agric, or even going by that modest percentage, give 10% of the total budget to agriculture, so that we'll be able to feed ourselves. You see, recently when I told you we went to the northern region, when you drive there and you see the vast land, you see it there, and we still import food. Ask yourself, what are we doing as a country?
We're not making use of our...
Why are we not making use of these lands?
What should be the trend of investment if we want to make it a priority? We know that over the last 4 years, the talk has always been about how Ghana's economy has become a Georgesburg economy, yes, and all the things that have been said, yes, about making sure we have the various variables of the economy strong enough. What should be the trend of investment?
The trend of investment to me should be such that we should be able to invest in the people and trust in the people. What are they doing? How can we support them? So if you take agricultural sector, for instance, let's make sure that we invest totally in the people and get the priorities right. You see, government tries to do that through various organizations. And when they do that and they get to the field, various sums of money are quoted. Various sums of money are quoted. And yet you see that when you get to the field, really, the amount that is invested in the land is so small. Maybe sometimes less than 20%. or call it 30%. The remaining 70% goes into facilitation and office administration and blah, blah, blah. We go borrow monies, and all those monies end up not really getting to the land. And even when it does, post-harvest becomes a problem. So we have a whole value chain, and we keep tackling some points of the value chain instead of doing a strong value chain analysis and making sure that we invest along the chain so that we get a complete result. You invest in mangoes, make sure that mangoes are going to a certain market. It really gets there and it becomes profitable. You invest in shea nut, let's make sure that it is done. You see, I always have a point using cocoa as an example. Why is cocoa alone doing very well and supporting this economy, but not the other crops or produce? We can use the cocoa approach for almost all the crops. Because mango in the north, for instance, could even be better than cocoa, which is well planned. I'm telling you, it's well planned.
But the values are not the same, you know.
But you see,
the values
are not the same. Yes.
The point is that if then we have a policy of value addition, etc., to the other ones that we were talking about, then that would be a very good strategy. Now, at what point do we say these are the sort of investments we need to make, and then well, these are the areas that we need to undertake those investments? If it's that we need to diversify the investments in agriculture and beyond cocoa, look at other derivatives, etc. Where do we need to start and say this is what we need to identify?
No, first, you see, in the current trend of every business that you do, we say every business must be demand driven. And so first identify, that is marketing. So you are doing marketing. First identify a need, and you struggle to produce something to meet the need. That gives you business. Okay, now Ghana, we have all the resources. The only thing that we don't have much in agriculture is irrigation, that is water. The land is there. Almost every land in Ghana can be put to good use. Okay, so what are the advantages that we have? What are the things that we can produce that other countries cannot produce? If you take vegetables and fruits, for instance, in Ghana, we are closest to the market that consumes these vegetables and fruits.
Where?
Europe, UK, everywhere. We are closer. 7 hours, 8 hours, we are there. People in Israel will have to travel almost about 15, 16 hours to get there, and yet they are leading us. But it's a challenge. I've been there before. We have seen what they are doing. Can't we easily go there and copy and come and paste? Because we have an advantage of the distance. We have an advantage of labor costs here. Because if you produce and produce it well, as soon as you get there, the price is the same. So when you work back, and your cost of production here is going to be lower, in Ghana, for instance, and the distance of transport is also lower, why are we not able to compete? Then we allow some other people or other countries to lead us in that market. Even in cocoa that we are doing so well, we have been stagnant. We are not able to move up.
And we just produce the beans.
Yes, beans and
add no value.
Yes, add no value. Well, now value addition is now. I know Kufuor's administration and other administration did very well. When MPP was exiting, it was almost about 28% value addition in Ghana. NDC also made it a point to do that, and it's now about only 34. To me, it's quite slow. 6 years, if you have only done about 6% or 4%, that is quite slow, because now they are bringing a lot of investors coming to Ghana here to produce the base material, and then they will send it outside. But you see, we should identify more needs and make sure we get the parameters right and produce to meet those markets. We can do it, even within the sub-region here.
The discovery of oil, how has that also dented our ambitions to invest either in the agricultural sector or other relevant sectors?
Well, I don't know whether that has been a blessing. Well, I would say it has anyway, because it has added some value to our total incomes. And recently, the fear I had was that, you know, there is this, I forgot the name, there's this institution that has been set up to look at oil revenues and how it is spent. And if you listen to the chief executive recently, he was saying that by December, they'll be kicked out of their office. They'll have no office to operate from, because their rent is expired and the government is not even bothered about more or less getting them a new place. And when they come out to give this report, and they come to Parliament and we analyze it, where the monies by law are supposed to go, I'm not getting there. They bring their reports. It comes to Parliament. We sit on it. It is given to the Finance Committee. It comes to the plenary. We ask questions, and it ends there. For instance, through the Maputo Declaration I'm talking about, they are supposed to use the oil revenue to more or less support agricultural, the agricultural budget by a certain amount. They have never had up to about 50% of that money coming to the agricultural sector. And so every year I read the budget, the agricultural sector or the education sector or maybe the energy sector, certain amount of the oil revenue is supposed to go there. That revenue doesn't come. And so even the budget that we approve for that sector at the end of the year, the sector doesn't get the total amount. It is different from even the agri sector or any other sector going to say that, oh, X amount is the amount of money that I need. When the budget comes, they are going to approve for maybe say 60, 45% or 50% of the X amount that they requested for. Out of that amount that has been approved by Parliament, at the end of the year, you see them getting, let's say, a lesser amount of that. So how do they really work? By September ending, if you go and find out from the agri sector or road and highways sector, the amount of money that has been paid to them, you realize that not even 20% has been sent to them by September ending, by the end of the third quarter. So if they are supposed to get say X amount, and at the end of the third quarter, only 20% of that amount has been given to them, when is the remaining 80% going to be given to them? And even if it is given to them within that 3 months, within the last quarter, what are they going to be able to achieve? So you see that it plows back within the next year. And basically that's what we are going to see. If you do a critical analysis of last year's budget, this year's budget, and look at it, you see all activities more or less running over. And so the budget that we approve, the amount of money that is later given to them, the last quarter, you see the amount of money that will flow. And so in the end, it is used in buying assets. We plan that we'll go and buy this, we plan that we'll go and buy this. The assets are bought, but the implementation, real activities are not done.
Now,
right.
Now that we've gone to the IMF, and despite all the concerns that have been raised, we've really now accepted what the terms should be and what the conditions should be. We've been told that to ensure there's prudent fiscal expenditure, blah, 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 and all. Beyond that, it's going to mean we're going to spend less. There's going to be a lot more austerity.
Yeah, that's the only way we can have our security ensured. And it's going to the IMF simply means that you say, hey, I'm not able to manage myself, come and help me manage my economy. It's as simple as that. And so the conditionalities will come. And when those conditionalities come, you cannot run away from them because they'll be there checking you. And they are supporting your budget. They are giving the money. So you cannot spend from the rules that they have established. And to me, if that is how we should always go for us to get the things right, then why not? We should go. Because it's only when you come out and say, hey, I'm matured, I don't need your support, and you're doing things right. But the IMF doesn't force countries to come and sign any pact with them. No, you go on your own volition or on your own will. And so when you go to look at your economy, they stay there and tell you, these are ABC is what you can do to help you. And if you want to go by it, you accept it. And once you accept it, you must follow it through. And so to me, from the way the Ghanaian economy is being run, the only solution, of course, is to go to the IMF. It's kind of micromanaging the economy for you. And when you do that, it tells everybody that, of course, you have failed. That's a failure to me. That is because we have gone out of it. We went somewhere deep. Some other government came and took us out, and now you have gone back. It's an admission that you have failed.
Your last words were politics, I think. The total debt stock, now we're told, is about 65.7 billion. That's 57.3% of GDP.
No, what's the amount quoted?
65.7 billion.
I thought you had hit about 68. Okay, if it's 65.
Okay. Now,
from 8.7 billion in 2008.
57.3% of GDP.
Yeah.
That's frightening.
Yeah.
We're almost going to hit the 60% mark.
Yeah.
That's frightening. How can that have impact on subsequent development and the projections we're likely to have from the next year, especially when we're going to have the budget being presented to you?
What development can you talk about when we are using only almost 57% of your total income to pay salaries?
No.
No. What did you quote? Is it debt to
GDP
to pay debt? How much are you left with? Just a small percentage, and that is what is going to be used in doing any development that you plan.
But this one just means that if you look at the quantum of the size of your economy, the amount you've borrowed is pegged at 57% of how the worth of your economy.
Yes.
Yes.
So it means that at the end of every month or at the end of every year, whatever you make, you are going to use 57% to pay loans.
Not necessarily.
What does that mean?
It just means that you are going to service the loans, but
you're going to service the loan.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that you're going to use 57 points.
Well, you see, let's explain it well to the ordinary man on the street. That is our debt to GDP ratio. You make a certain money, and out of that money that you don't own 57%. Let them understand it that way. You understand me?
I get you perfectly.
Yes. Let the ordinary man understand it. Out of every amount of money that you make at any particular time, 57% doesn't belong to you. So you're like 43. You're going to manage the economy with a 43%. And so what development can you talk about? And out of this, of course, your salaries and everything also have to come from it. And so it is a very dangerous situation. Very, very dangerous.
We've been told by government that much of the loans that have been taken used for projects, and we can see some fiscal structures and things like that. So there's an airport that will be established, there are roads that are being built, things that are being done, etc. That should be good news, at least in the medium to long term.
If we are seeing the real structures on the ground,
and
if we are analyzing the real figures, some of them have not taken off. We are not seeing some of them. Yet they haven't approved, the loans have been approved.
Yes.
We want to see all of them on the ground.
Before you be satisfied that the loans were taken for more economic purposes.
You see, when you go and take a loan from somebody and say you're going to use it for this, whether you use it to do it or not, that person will take his or her money. You understand me? With the interest. And so once we take the money and the money comes in, it is debt that is owed by you and I, by Ghanaians. And so if those who are supposed to manage the economy, those who are supposed to manage that loan, decide not to use the loan for that, we are going to pay anyway. And so we want to see at least the cycle overhead. We have seen it. We are seeing the cycle overhead and some few.
There will be Kaneshi too.
There will be Kaneshi.
Is it Kaneshi?
No. Kaswa.
Kaswa.
Yes. But you see, all those ones, my problem there was the amount involved. Amount involved.
There's even a hospital that's been built at Rich.
Oh yes.
You should be content.
No, but you see, no. Yes, we are. The hospital, we are. But you see, there are agreed and accepted price when it comes to prices for various activities when it comes to hospital construction. They have the figures. When they brought this bill, for instance, to Parliament.
You mean globally accepted?
Globally accepted.
Averagely.
Averagely. When it came, ours was way above the amount that were globally being quoted.
What do you mean by that?
We fought it, we talked about it.
Following that, we've had independent verification from people who had done some valuation.
But to the experts, to most of the experts, the amount of money that were taken for that structure was way above normal.
So what's your suspicion?
Chop.
That's just blatant talk.
Chop. It's too much. Talk about this, what do you call it, highway from
N1.
Yeah, N1 highway. How much did you use? $150 million. The total stretch, 150 with the road, with the flyovers, and then there were footbridges and all that. Then we are talking about Kaswa, only a flyover, just that, $130 million. My brother, why? Why are you doing to Ghana? Why? It's just too much. It's just too much to me. You see, if you ask somebody, if you are going to buy your own car, you go, I want this accessory, I want this, you negotiate and negotiate well because you know you are going to pay for it.
But the approvals were done by Parliament.
No, but you see, the approvals are done by Parliament. But you see, that's what everybody will say. Once we talk, we sit.
You are an MP, so if you are here talking.
No, but we condemn it. We talk about it. We want to make sure that minority, minority in general.
You raise concerns.
Yes, we raise concerns.
And that was adequately publicized.
Yes, and in the end, it will come to voting. They vote on it and we lose. But as soon as it is passed, then they say Parliament has passed this bill. You understand me? Assuming that all of us were part of that agreement. And I'm always praying for a situation where one day, the presidency will have minority in Parliament. I'm praying one day that in Ghana we should have that.
Then
the president who wins will have minority in parliament.
Then you make the country ungovernable for them.
Not ungovernable. We'll have real figures. We'll have real thinking in parliament. And real decisions will be taken.
Because if you see that if government is bringing projects and the projects will inure to the benefits of the people, and it's likely it's likely going to give high public opinion rates to the government in power, you're not going to approve them, because if the government implements them, they'll be more popular.
No, I don't think. Well, to me, my thinking, no, because I will want to see Ghana.
You.
Yes. To me, no. If it is good, I'll support it.
Yeah.
But if it is